Chiefs Kingdom? It's Monday morning. We're all chiefed up, and we're back with another podcast for that ass. Leonard Fournette was on TV, Steve. Was he begging Brett Veach to bring him to Kansas City? We're going to talk about it.
Yeah, before we get to Leonard Fournette, 95% of you guys are not subbed to the channel. Do your boys a favor and go hit that sub button right now. We're trying to get to 10K before the season kicks off. We're very close. But yeah, Mike, let's take a look at that clip.
Is he crushing on any teams? Is he crushing it, anybody? KC. Did you say KC or KC?
I know. I heard both.
Yeah,
I heard.
Yeah,
KC.
He was asked. I heard KC too. He was asked if he's crushing on any teams. He said KC. They said can't say. I heard KC. We'll have to find out.
I think he said KC, and then when they said can't say, he went along with it. I don't know. I think it was a hint, Mike. But the thing about it is the Chiefs don't need a running back. So Leonard Fournette might just be, talking to nobody, because I don't think Brett Veach is interested in bringing in a running back. Now, however, if they were to get rid of Clyde and they need that vet running back that we've talked about that could do the Rojo row from last year, Leonard Fournette would be pretty sweet at that. I'd take it.
Right. Well, we've been talking about it. Do we need that other running back? Are they comfortable with just Deneric Prince? Are they comfortable keeping Clyde and just running him? Are they going to trade Clyde? Are they comfortable with just having, Pacheco and McKinnon, who both have shown, McKinnon throughout his career, a little bit of injury history. And then, Pacheco runs so hard. He's already had 2 surgeries this offseason. He may not even be ready for camp. We're not for sure. Will they go out and get that Rojo-style running back? Leonard Fournette, we've always had a little bit of history with Leonard Fournette. I'll spit it out in a second. Matt Verderam says, my understanding is the Chiefs have potential interest in Leonard Fournette now that he has cleared waivers. The money would need to be right, as backing up Clyde Edwards-Helaire was impressed during camp. This was also September in 2020. This was the first time Fournette before he went to the Bucs. But Chiefs Kingdom was wanting Fournette then. He said there was potential for the Chiefs. And then also you got David Latham from Last Word on Sports. He actually come out with this just a few weeks ago. Isaiah Pacheco played well last year, but the Kansas City Chiefs could use a more proven commodity for the backfield. It's no secret that the team is looking for a free agent that is better between the tackles, and Fournette has a 3-down skill set tailor-made for this offense. Reed prefers to use a workhorse running back, but he hasn't had a player capable of handling the volume since Kareem Hunt days. Fournette isn't the player he used to be, but he can still make an impact as both a runner and a receiver. Why are they forgetting that Pacheco? I'm pretty sure Pacheco can handle the workload that Andy Reid wants to throw at him. Are they just saying that there's nobody besides Pacheco if Pacheco were to be injured?
I don't understand it at all. I really don't. I think that if nothing changes, we have our 4 running backs already. I've talked about this time and time again. I think you got Pacheco, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jerick McKinnon, and Deneric Prince that's going to go into the season. Now, if they were to trade Clyde, maybe they want that vet presence, which would be Leonard Fournette. But do you think he's going to come in and just take over? He's not coming in here and playing the first 3 downs all the time. That's not going to freaking happen. Like, he might be RB1B. Maybe. But I really think Pacheco's going to get the workload. Pacheco proved last season that he can handle it. He proved that he's going to be good in this league. All he's got to do is stay healthy. But I really don't see anything changing with this backfield, Mike. I don't know if they're going to get rid of Clyde or not. They might just keep him on his last year of his contract.
You're right. This past season, Fournette had 189 rushing attempts for 668 yards, 3 touchdowns, according to Pro Football Reference. He also caught 73 passes for 523 yards and 3 touchdowns through the air. That was working with Brady and the Bucs this past season. So he shows he's still got a little bit left in the tank. I think that he is reaching out to Brett Veach because if you're chasing more rings, this is the spot you want to be in. I think he sees that Clyde could be on the outs. You might want to bring in that veteran presence if you're not convinced that Deneric Prince can come in and do that if something were to happen. Jerick McKinnon's never going to be that guy that pounds it up in the hole 2 and 3 times and it moves the short yardage. Quit laughing at pound it up in the hole. I seen it coming. But yeah, I just don't think he's that guy. So if we were to be heading close, to camp and it looks like Pacheco may not be ready or they may not think he's progressed as well as he has, and they just don't want to say, look, we're going to hand it to a UDFA and Deneric Prince, and we don't think McKinnon can handle the workload. Clyde might be getting shipped out of town. Is that the time you bring in somebody? We've already talked about Zeke Elliott. I think Leonard Fournette's a better option than Zeke Elliott. I think he catches the ball out of the backfield really well. I think he does a lot of things we like. this guy wants to come here. If he takes a really cheap contract, do you think that might be the only way he gets to KC?
Man, I will say this. If you're looking for a 28-year-old running back, I think that Leonard Fournette might be one of the most relevant ones out there right now. I think he still offers some value.
For the price tag, way better than Cook.
Right. The guy's a beast. The guy's a
Not
freaking
saying
beast.
Cook's better, but for the price tag, yeah, I'm with you. I think Fournette's better.
Yeah, I'm just saying there's not very many of them out there. Because you think about guys that are that age, like Kareem Hunt and everybody like that, like they're kind of on the backside of their career already in a weird sort of way, because we've talked about how the running backs, they just don't last as long as they used to. But I do feel like there is some value with Leonard Fournette. But like I said, I'm not interested in him whatsoever unless they ship Clyde out. I only want him for a veteran presence. And if Clyde's still there this year, then I don't see the point of going and getting Leonard Fournette. Now, I do think it would probably be wise to try to get some draft picks or something for Clyde instead of letting him play for 1 year and then walking. Why don't we see if we can get anything for him, and then maybe you could bring in Fournette on the cheap since he wants to be in Kansas City. It's a win-win.
Hey, I'm completely down with that. I think if you can get something for Clyde rather than just let him, I do understand. If he's here, they're going to work him. They're going to use him. We've already talked about this countless times. Andy Reid likes him. They are going to do that. So if you do that, is that more valuable than taking him out of town, getting maybe a 5th, 6th round pick out of him? That's maybe. So 6th to 7th round pick possibly. Is the 6th to 7th round pick more valuable than letting Clyde just play this year and working him to death? I don't know. It remains to be seen.
I think so. Like I do feel like Clyde will produce if he's healthy and he's on the field. He's going to produce this year. He's on his contract year. He's got to be trying to. He's got to be trying to get a bag from somebody. So he's going to look pretty good this year, regardless. But yeah, big if he even stays healthy. But I think, Clyde's not going to be a Chief after this year. There's just no way around it. So why don't you go ahead and take a late round draft pick for him? At least it's something in return. And I don't think you'd miss him that much. I mean, you saw the last half of the season last year. We didn't have Clyde, and we ended up winning the Super Bowl without Clyde. So I don't see what the point is in keeping him around for just 1 year when you could get something for him. And there are people out there like Leonard Fournette who might take a little bit of a sweetheart deal with the Kansas City Chiefs just to be here and win.
I think Fournette wants to play. He wants to continue. He said he's working out. He's in the best shape of his life. He's getting up at 4 a.m. He's doing the workouts. He's putting in all the work. I believe there's still something in the tank. If you do want to ship Clyde out of town, I do think you get something for him. And I think Fournette's more reliable in a way. I think Fournette could take the beating of a season better than what Clyde has shown. So if you could trade off and get him for a small cap figure this year, if you can get something out of Clyde, I think it's worth doing. I would rather have Fournette over Clyde Edwards-Helaire, in my opinion, if that's what it is. But let's jump into this one. I found this. This goes right into kind of a little bit of it's a graphic from PFF, and they're asking for the top 10 running back units to going into 2023. And they say San Francisco 49ers is the number 1 running back unit going into 2023. The Falcons are at number 2 based off of a rookie from last year and Bijan Robinson from this year. The Cleveland Browns, without Kareem Hunt now, Nick Chubb carrying the load is number 3. Derrick Henry and a guy with no ACLs is coming in at number 4. The Colts at 5, the Packers at 6, the Raiders at 7, even though Josh Jacobs is in a contract dispute. The Giants, Saquon Barkley contract dispute. The Chargers, Eckler, and then the Cowboys without Zeke now. That's just a Tony Pollard show. You surprised that yet again Pacheco, McKinnon gets 0? Like, they can't crack the top 10 in the league after winning the Super Bowl? You can't do that?
Am I surprised? No, because the Chiefs are always getting pooped on. I mean, let's just be serious about it. It don't matter how much they win.
It's that poop again.
All these people, they're gonna shat on the Chiefs, and we know this. They do it all the time. And PFF, they're going by like grades and things like that. I highly doubt Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon's grades are like super high on PFF because they're not utilized like a lot of other running backs in the league. It's the Andy Reid offense. They're getting a little bit here and there, and it's also spread out amongst the guys, so it's not like heavy on those numbers. So I don't know what they're going by with that PFF list, but I feel like it's kind of trashy that the Chiefs are not in the top 10 because, I mean, if you even have Clyde Edwards-Helaire healthy on your team and you add that with Pacheco and McKinnon, I feel like they're easily top 10.
Yeah, well, where would you think they would fit in on this list then? If Clyde comes back healthy, Pacheco's back healthy, McKinnon's back this year catching. McKinnon's one of the best blockers in the league in the backfield. So I think we go like what? I think I put them in 6, 7 range maybe. I think it's fair.
Something like that. I mean, it's pretty obvious. I think that they got Dallas beat. I mean, Dallas is working with Tony Pollard and Deuce Vaughn, I believe. I don't know who else they even have. And then the Chargers have Austin Eckler, and he didn't even want to be there anymore. So I don't really care about that. And then the Giants, of course, they got Saquon, but he's in the contract dispute. Josh Jacobs in the contract. I would put him right at the 7th spot. Maybe would give Green Bay the nod with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. I don't even know if I would do that.
I'm kind of surprised to see A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones behind the Colts, who
Jonathan Taylor.
Besides Jonathan Taylor, that's it.
It doesn't matter. They overrate that guy so much. I mean, granted, he's really, really good. Don't get me wrong. But
I think the Falcons is the big one here that's way too high.
They're just putting a lot on Bijan Robinson in his rookie year. I mean, the guy's going to be good eventually, but I don't know how to work out with him with the Falcons in his rookie season. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Well, going into that, I think the reason people don't respect the Chiefs' backfield is because Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been looked at as a bust. We compared the stats a little bit to Jonathan Taylor and to some of these other people. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor was the main guy. DeAndre Swift come out of that draft.
Right.
And DeAndre Swift doesn't have that much better numbers, if hardly any better numbers, than Clyde. And so I thought this was kind of funny. People asked ChatGPT to rank the top 10 Chiefs biggest draft bust in Chiefs history. Clyde Edwards-Helaire did not even make the top 10 list. John Baldwin at number 1. I think everybody can agree John Baldwin was kind of a bust. I think number 2, 3, and 4 have to be at the top. Tyson Jackson, Glenn Dorsey, and Ryan Sims.
I feel like Todd Blackledge maybe could have made the top of this list, though.
Todd Blackledge has to be at the top of the list.
Right. I mean,
I don't care what you think about Todd Blackledge and his situation.
If you slide him up from 5 to number 1 and just push the rest down, then I could probably agree with this list.
Right. I think Blackledge has to be number 1. They took him over who? Was it Marino? Jim Kelly and Dan Marino? And good Lord. That's a whiff. That's a whiff. I don't care
big
what
time,
you think. So, look, you got Trezell Jenkins at number 6. I mean, yeah, he sucked. Emmanuel Aka. I don't even remember that guy. Junior Seavey, I do remember. He was kind of a bust. Kevin Dyson was a bust. Devon Wiley at number 10. We didn't even take Devon Wiley that high. How can you put him as a bust? I feel like Clyde has to be on this list.
I would think
sadly.
So. Well, that's the thing. We've talked about this a lot before, too. Clyde's stats, when he's healthy, they're not bad. But he's a bust because Brett Veach and Andy Reid chose to take him in the first round. He's not a first-round talent. He wasn't.
Right.
I've said this many times. If they would have took Clyde at the end of the second round or even the third round, I don't think people would be as mad at it. But they chose to take him in the first round, and it's just bad for him because he's not a first-rounder. He did not live up to it. I don't think Clyde ever had a chance to live up to that.
Right. So if we had to do the list, me and you are putting Todd Blackledge at number 1, hands down.
Oh, yeah.
I actually think I would put Jackson Dorsey above John Baldwin. Was John Baldwin that bad, or was he just a product of not having a good quarterback?
Well, that's the thing, man. The Chiefs had a really rough time. It was a rough stretch with receivers through there. The only good one that we had during that whole time was Dwayne Bowe. So everybody was super excited about John Baldwin. But that's the thing about it. If you put them in a spot where they won't get a quarterback worth of crap, I mean, what's your receiver really going to do? But also, John Baldwin he was a bust. He sucked.
As big of a bust as John Baldwin was, he had one heck of a catch. There was one catch that he made that
he did one thing
out.
Right.
He got one right, but I'll give him that. Hey, I'll tell you though, we did get a little bit of credit. We got a little bit of credit. I'm going to throw this up. ESPN, Seth Walder actually ranked the number 1 NFL roster cores. So the core players on a roster. Kansas City Chiefs, number 1. He lists Mahomes, Kelsey, Chris Jones, Creed Humphrey, and Joe Tooney. Those 5, he said, are the best 5 core players in football, according to Seth Walder. Give him a round of applause. Congrats, Seth Walder, for letting the Chiefs have a little bit of moment. He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
He's completely right. And look at that guy right in the smack dab middle. Just yell.
Stone cold, baby.
Get it signed. Get it done. Let's get it going, baby. Because, I mean, no disrespect to the O-lineman here, but if you remove Creed and Joe Tooney from this list, and just those three, I would say that those three, along with Andy Reid, we've really said this time and time again, is the nucleus of a dynasty.
You know who's not on that list?
What? Who?
L'Jarius Sneed. So when you guys keep telling me we should pay Sneed over Chris Jones, get out of here.
Yeah, that's insane. But no, I mean, you have to give your props to Creed. I mean, Creed's the best center in the league, right? I mean, you can argue Kelsey's better or equal to, but Kelsey's also old, and Creed's the man. So Tooney, he might be out of here after this year. He's at that point with the contract. So I don't know if I'd even put him on this list, even though I do think that he is kind of the glue of our offensive line. Hopefully someone can take that role over this year before he's a goner. But like maybe you could have put Trey Smith on there, or like one of the other
Nick
guys.
Bolton.
Nick Bolton would have been a really good
Nick
pick
Bolton
for
should have
this.
been there over
But
Tooney.
once again, who gets left out of everything? Who gets overlooked the most?
Nick Bolton.
Nick freaking Bolton.
Dude, that guy gets so much disrespect. But what I was going to say is Mahomes, look at these contracts. Mahomes underpaid. Kelsey underpaid. Chris Jones trying to get something right now.
Okay,
Creed
right.
Humphrey getting ready to come up. We're going to have to extend this guy here soon. And then Joe Tooney, like you just said, this guy is probably going to get shipped out of here because I think his contract's actually not working out
He'll be
properly.
a cap casualty next year, I think.
Right. So out of all these guys, out of these five, you've got two that are drastically underpaid. Chris Jones trying to get a bag, and let's hope they can get that together. Creed's going to get a big one next year. And Joe Tooney's probably out because of his contract being a little bit too big. So he's going to have to take a sweetheart restructure deal, or unless he's going to be gone. So we got to be a little cautious here. But I do think this does prove that Chris Jones needs to have that contract. It needs to be coming soon. And that's going to free up a lot of money to sign people like Creed Humphrey and Nick Bolton. And I'm with you. I think Joe Tooney out of this list is probably the guy that I like. Joe Tooney for the future. I don't think Joe Tooney goes more than after this year. So
he's 30 years old, and he's got to get, if he's going to get one more good contract, he's got to take it before he retires. So I mean, he can't really afford to, take a really small deal from the Chiefs just to stick around. I mean, maybe he decides
two offensive
to do that,
linemen on that list. Two offensive linemen on that list.
But I'm not worried though.
Look at this one.
What?
Pro Football Focus puts up the top 10 offensive lines. The Chiefs at number 3. That's it. Eagles at 1. The Browns at 2. Do you think that we're not as good as the Browns offensive line at number 2? I feel like we should have been number 3, number 2, or number 1 on this list.
Oh, look, I'll take top 3. I mean, you can compare, and like, it's kind of, at that point, you're one of the best offensive lines in the league. The rest of it's up for debate, right? So, I mean, I'll take the top 3, but it kind of blends in with what we were just talking about. I'm not worried about losing Joe Tooney either. I think we'll still keep our status as one of the best offensive lines in the league as long as Mahomes is here. I think that we've noticed that Brett Veach and Andy Reid have made it a point since that Super Bowl 55, I believe. I don't know. I think they're going to have to make it a priority for Patrick Mahomes to be protected at all times. And they've shown that they're going to do that. They've went and spent money on offensive linemen over and over again. They've drafted it. They're going to keep padding it up. And we have really good depth right now. So even if Joe Tooney's gone, we have some guys that can step right in, and I wouldn't even bat an eyelash. Granted, they're not going to be on Joe Tooney's level yet, but we have some young guys that can really play, man. So I'm not too worried about it. I feel good for our offensive line going forward. I'm pretty excited to see how it all shakes out, man.
I think you have to get, it looks like Jawan Taylor coming in on that right side possibly could shift to left if they wouldn't have went after Donovan Smith. But they did feel like they needed to go sign Donovan Smith. That's the one thing that kind of, maybe they were like, look, we're going to let them adapt to being in KC, get the rule, the playbook before we just throw them to the fire over on the left side. But they did that with Orlando Brown Jr. He never really got to the potential a lot of Chiefs Kingdom thought he should have been. I will say that that's probably the weak position on our line right now has got to be Donovan Smith. Right tackle, I think Jawan Taylor's the top right tackle in this league. If you shift him to left tackle, he's not a top 5 left tackle. He's probably not a top 10 left tackle. It starts getting questionable. I think you have to sign. And when I say think, I mean you have to. You have to lock up Creed Humphrey long term. And to be honest, I probably put Trey Smith in that category. And I think that where you start looking next year is the left side of the offensive line. And if you feel comfortable moving Jawan Taylor to the left side, then you got to replace right tackle, left guard. And I think that's where next year's going to be the holes. And like you said, we did draft some. We've got Darian Kennard here. We got Wanye Morris. I think that those positions are fine. Prince Tega, you've got him on the roster still. We've still got Allegretti. Allegretti can play some of the guard spots. We've got plenty of people, but I do think that is going forward the big spots we got to get, and we definitely have to get those two offensive linemen locked up, along with Nick Bolton.
They're still going to focus heavily on the offensive line coming up, like in the next offseason and also in the draft and things like that. You're still going to see them very heavily focused on that offensive line because too many contracts are coming up. Joe Tooney's he's the old guy, so he's probably the one that's going to go bye-bye. I think Trey Smith sticks around. I mean, they're going to have to probably pay him pretty good, but I think they can retain him and then probably slide Kennard in at left guard or something like that. I don't know. I don't know how it would work, but I wouldn't feel bad about it. I mean, I think Darian Kennard could play right tackle right now decently in the league, just as well as Andrew Wiley did last year. So, I mean, I'm not opposed to getting him out there and getting him going, even if it's at a guard position.
Yeah, well, I think Wanye could probably take the right tackle job next year, and you could slide Jawan to left tackle next year. Possibly. Maybe Wanye could play the left. Who knows? We'll see.
Right.
We'll see what happens when camp comes around. I'm with you, though. I do think that Darian Kennard could right now probably step in and play one of the guard spots and be completely fine. I think so. Yeah. Tackle, it's going to be iffy here and there because, like we said, he thinks he's a tackle. We all think he can play tackle, but he's not really got to that point yet.
Do you really think that he would be any worse than Andrew Wiley, though? That's my question. I feel like, do you think he'd be worse than Andrew Wiley?
I think he could be right what Andrew Wiley was, and people did not like Andrew Wiley. So I think he'd be a significant downgrade from Wiley? No. But do I think if Darian Kennard was on the free agency market, he would get what Wiley got this year? No.
Of course not, because he wasn't starting on the Super Bowl winning team.
I get it, but he couldn't play on that Super Bowl winning team either. Well, here's the thing. I like that we're talking about offensive line right now. A lot of Chiefs Kingdom's asking, let's talk about the offensive line. Let's look at something besides receivers and the big guys. Well, here's the thing. The offensive line is something that you do have to have if you want this to be a championship team moving forward. You got to protect Mahomes. The offensive line's important. So like you said, you have to get Creed, and I think you have to get Trey Smith. This is where the Chris Jones restructuring and the Patrick Mahomes restructuring comes in because you got to be able to sign them. And you cannot neglect Nick. Why
Bolton.
did I just go blank? You can't neglect Nick Bolton on that side. You can't neglect Nick Bolton. Willie Gay's coming up next year as well. I think Willie Gay and I think L'Jarius Sneed are your odd ones out. I really do, because if you ask me out of all those five, which one you got to keep, you can keep three. I'm not keeping Willie Gay over any of the guys we've mentioned, and I'm not keeping Sneed because we are way too deep at corner, and Brett Veach just keeps throwing the darts and keeps landing.
Absolutely.
Nick Jones is making a huge impact in this team already so far, and he's a 7th-round pick again.
Right. I think offensive line, like I've said, they're going to have to maintain a heavy focus on that.
They take priority.
If they want to keep this dynasty running, you got to keep Mahomes on his feet and keep him healthy. I mean, that's number one. That's plan A of everything. Just keep Mahomes upright and in good health, and you're going to have a good chance to win the Super Bowl every season. And I'm with you. I think we definitely want to focus more on the offensive line than, say, DBs, because we're in a really good spot with DBs.
Right.
We spent a whole draft solidifying the secondary. And now it paid off. It paid off. We won a Super Bowl with a bunch of rookies, man. And now they've had the whole year under their belt, all that experience. They've won a Super Bowl. They got a newfound confidence, and you're putting them back out there this year to see how they're going to do. And I personally think that all of them are going to succeed. I think that they're all going to be just as good or better than they were last year. I have no doubts about McDuffie, Josh Williams, Jalen Watson, you name it. I also think Brian Cook is going to step up this year. So I'm not worried about that.
Johnson's going to look better.
Right. I just don't think I think L'Jarius Sneed is definitely the odd man out. Willie Gay, I don't know how much Willie Gay would garner in a contract, to be quite honest about it. I don't know if he can really demand that much. I mean, he's very athletic and he's good. We saw some really good games from him. But I don't know if anyone's really out there being like, man, really would love to sign Willie Gay.
But there's no way you're picking Willie Gay over Nick Bolton when it comes down to
absolutely
it.
Not. No. Like we said, Nick Bolton could have very easily been the 5th player on that top 5, nucleus of the team there. because he led the entire league in tackles last year, if I'm not mistaken, on the Super Bowl winning team.
Right.
And he just keeps getting overlooked
Well,
and
look,
shunned and disrespected.
Willie Gay's the guy that's actually up for the contract after this year.
Right.
Nick Bolton and Creed's only going to be in their third year. They're going into their
Right.
final year. But a lot of
Right.
these guys, you don't want them playing on their final year if they're that big of a piece, because if something gets injured, they'll start holding out a little bit. You know, those guys that make big impacts. And if Creed was like, look, I want an extension, and Nick Bolton's like, look, I need my extension. I don't want to play here on my fourth year. I don't want to take the chance on getting hurt. That's why those guys become priorities next year.
I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to know that people like Creed Humphrey and Nick Bolton, those are guys that you have to 100% retain on your team to keep this dynasty intact. Those guys those are core anchors on this team. There's
Right.
no way around
Do
it.
you have to have Willie Gay and L'Jarius Sneed to keep this dynasty intact?
No.
I don't think
No.
so. I
don't
think
think
Trey
so.
Smith's debatable. I think he's the guy in the middle. I think you got the two at the top with Creed and Nick Bolton. I think
Well-
Trey Smith's smack in the middle, and then I think you've got Willie Gay and you've got L'Jarius Sneed on the back end.
Right. The only reason Trey Smith gets to nod over the other guys is because he's offensive line. I think that takes priority. 100%. Do I think that the Chiefs would struggle and never be able to maintain without Trey Smith? No.
No.
But I'd love to keep him because he's freaking awesome. And I enjoy watching him play. I think he's solid. So, I mean, I hope they can retain him as well. But I'm with you. I think that's where we're sitting. And, yeah, I'm glad we're also talking about the offensive line, too. I've been saying this for a long time now. I'm excited about this offseason. I can't wait till camp and the preseason to see how Andy Reid lets this roster shake out, because there's so much intrigue with different positions, and offensive line being one of them, which I think they're going to stick with kind of what they're rolling with right now. I do think come week 1 of the regular season that it's going to be Donovan Smith on the left side, Jawan Taylor on the right side, and then, of course, you're going to have Joe Tooney, Trey Smith, and Creed Humphrey. I think that's going to be the way this thing rolls out. I really do. But it's very intriguing because we do have a lot of depth. And I want to see how Wanya Morris does. I want to see how Darian Kennard has progressed. So I'm excited, man. I don't think there's anything to worry about. There's definitely a discussion to be had about Joe Tooney and his contract coming up. And then, hey, a couple years from now, we've got to make sure that Creed's locked up. So, yeah, we can talk about it. But I think right now, in the immediate future, I think Patrick Mahomes is in good hands.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that we have a good offensive line. Again, I think we should probably rank over Cleveland. I won't cry about it. It's top 3. We can't be the best in everything, even though we are the best in everything. But you got to let everybody have something in the offseason. We can't all be getting rings all the time, you know. Let them have something. This brings me – that was some good offensive line discussion, and I'm proud of us for that. I know people's been so tired of hearing about D-Hop and things like that, and talking about the big uglies is something that everybody can get behind. But I found this. Which player will have a breakout season? We've kind of touched on this one.
Yeah.
We've touched on it a little bit. We've said – Justin Reed's poised for a breakout season this year. Even Brian Cook. We think that, you know, it's possible Mike Dana gets a breakout season. Maybe Karlaftis can do it. And then we've talked about, you know, Kadarius Toney on the offense or Sky Moore. We've threw out all those. How about we keep it to the offensive line? And if there's a guy this year, Steve, on the offensive line that could be a breakout guy that could just come in and maybe shake things up on the offensive line, who do you think it could be?
Honestly, like I said, I think they're going to roll with what I just said. So if I was going to take an offensive lineman as a breakout player, I have no freaking clue, man. I'm Jawan Taylor. Maybe he becomes more of a household name because he's going to be one of the best. I don't know where you're going with this.
What if you had a guy that we didn't think about? Like, do you think Kennard could actually show this year that, hey, I'm good enough that you guys can plug me in and get rid of Joe Tooney? Or do you think Wanye?
Does someone get injured? Do they have to come in and play? So, yeah, I mean, I think there's an opportunity for guys like Kennard to have a breakout season. But I think things have to happen first. And obviously, we don't want injuries happening to our offensive line.
Do you think Lucas Niang could do it? Could
No,
he come out this year and be like, hey, I'm the man. You guys are sleeping on me.
No. You'd be surprised. I'd be surprised if Lucas Niang even wants to play this season. Let's get that straight. So,
yeah,
really don't care about that. But when I think breakout player, I don't think about the offensive line. I think it's pretty solid the way it's going to be. Now, I could be wrong. We could see it shake out different, but I just think it's the way it's going to be. I do hope that Donovan Smith's able to stay healthy and get back to his form prior to last season, because if he can, I think we're very, very solid. But, yeah, breakout player, I'm sticking with my boy Sky Moore. I think Sky Moore is going to be the one that really breaks out on this team, and that's counting, offense and defense. I think Sky Moore's the one. I think that he offers so much that people didn't get to see last season. I think he's got to learn this playbook. And, dude, I just saw too much Sky Moore tape back before his draft and what he was able to accomplish at a smaller college and just be that sure-handed and that good after the catch and that quick in small spaces and that smart. Dude, he's going to break out. If he gets his opportunities, if he gets to take that Juju role, it's breakout Sky Moore this year.
I'm going to go wide receiver too, and I'm going to pick a guy that might be a little polarizing. I think MVS has a chance to break out this year.
No,
and
I
the
think so
reason
too.
I say that is because he's still going to be used to blow the top off of defenses. Maybe Patrick and him have got on the same page, and finally they can connect a little bit more because they left so much on the field last year with some underthrown balls, some overthrown balls. Just Marquez, I'll get his name right today since I picked him as the breakout. MVS, he was the guy that I don't know how to explain it. There was times where I feel like he could have been so good, and then it just didn't click. But we've seen signs of that there in the playoff game. Wasn't it against the Bengals, actually, wasn't it?
He tore the Bengals up in the AFC Championship game, yes.
Right. So I feel like if he can carry that over, I do think he could be more of a go-to guy for Mahomes. Maybe Mahomes can trust him a little more. They get on the same page. I like that. I would say Kadarius Toney, and he's an easy one. I'm not sold on Kadarius Toney actually playing a lot.
Right. Do you trust him to be on the field?
This guy.
That's the problem. But no, I agree with you on MVS. I think that he's a very good candidate for a breakout season. Obviously, a lot of people know about MVS, but we've discussed this before too. And he was pretty much just known as that home run hitter over there in Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers would hit him with a deep ball every now and again, but that's really all you knew about him. And then I think when he came to Kansas City, he was looking to get to a more complete receiver role. I just think it's going to take time. He's learning Andy Reid's offense, which a lot of people say can take over a year to do anyway. And then not to mention him and Patrick Mahomes, they seem to struggle at times with the chemistry, like you said, but it wasn't always just MVS either. I mean, there were times when MVS maybe didn't run the right route or something like that, but we saw a lot of times where MVS won his routes, was wide freaking open, and Patrick Mahomes couldn't throw the ball into the ocean at that moment and missed him completely. And we even saw some plays that did connect for 30 yards, 25-plus yards, where if Patrick Mahomes would have just thrown the ball in stride, it was an easy 50-yard touchdown. But instead,
it was always
had to
a little underthrown, a little overthrown. The chemistry wasn't there.
If they can click and get on the same page, I'm right there with you, man. I think MVS could really surprise some people. And like you said, it's pretty polarizing because you're either with MVS or you're not right now. There's a lot of Chief Kingdom that thinks that they should go ahead and cut him and save the cap space. I'm on the other side of that, man. I think that he showed me enough last year, especially in that AFC Championship game, stepping up when it counted the most, that he's got something there. And if him and Mahomes can get on the same page, I'm with you, man. I would put him in that category.
Yep. I totally agree. I like the MVS. I like the Sky Moore one too. I think the one I want to say Richie James, but I'm just not convinced that Richie James can even make the team. I think he's still like 50-50 to make the roster at this point because we're actually pretty deep at wide receiver. Like, we don't have that one guy, and that's why everybody's like bringing D-Hop, but we are very solid. And I want to say Richie James because Richie James has got good hands, and I think he can make stuff work. I think he could probably play the Mecole Hardman role very well, to be honest.
Right.
And he's not a little guy either. I noticed he's not a little guy. Justin Watson could actually play a little bit of a bigger role as well. So I don't know. I think a lot of people would want to say, oh, it's Justin Ross. Again, I think we're still on the fence with Justin Ross. I really want to see Justin Ross, and I don't even want to see it in camp. I don't think we're going to know about Justin Ross until we put the pads on and hit another team. I think it's going to be those first 3 preseason games is when you're going to learn Justin Ross.
Right.
Richie James, agree with that one?
On the other hand, yes, I agree with Justin Ross, but Richie James is a little guy. I think I don't know.
He looks bigger though. Like, he looks a little like stockier than I would think.
He's like 5'9", 185. He's pretty tiny.
I don't know why, but like when I get a visual image of him, I'm closing my eyes right now. I'm thinking about it, Steve. I'm thinking like I feel like he's
you
bigger
want him
than
to be bigger than he is.
I want him to look like Kelvin Benjamin.
No, but he's a smaller guy. But no, I'm with you with that too. I mean, we saw that graphic a couple weeks back. He was the most sure-handed receiver in the league last year by stats, was Richie James. So, I mean, that bodes well for him coming in here and making this team as well. But, dude, just another position battle that I'm interested to see how it shakes out. This is what I'm excited for this offseason is because, like I said, there's so many. Like, how are these going to work out, man? How's that offensive line going to play out? How's the receiver room going to play out? How are the DBs going to shake out? I'm just excited to see what Andy Reid comes up with, and whatever they do, whoever they cut, whoever they move on from, I have full 100% confidence in Andy Reid to put the best people on the field and win another Lombardi.
That's what he does. Andy is the man. We're just good at finding talent. So again, these aren't players that we're all convinced of, but I think if those coaches and that upper management has confidence in them, I think they have earned our confidence as well. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, they have to.
I've got a little graphic here I want to bring up. The best NFL nickname ever. You have Deion Sanders in primetime. You got Joe Namath, Broadway Joe, Tyrann Mathieu, Honey Badger, Sweetness, baby, Walter Payton. You got Megatron. You got Michael Irvin, the playmaker. Legatron. Who in the world's Legatron? Okay, you got Mean Joe Green, the Nigerian Nightmare, Beast Mode, and you got the Fridge, Refrigerator Perry, and then it says other. Do you think the best nickname ever is on that list, Steve, or is there somebody they're missing?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. I think it has to be on the list. My personal opinion, I think the coolest nickname is the Honey Badger. It's just too funny, right? Especially if you know where the Honey Badger came from and why they call people a Honey Badger. That's my personal favorite. Do I think like the most iconic one? I think you have to give it to Sweetness, Walter Payton, or Primetime Deion Sanders. Megatron's a pretty good one too, though. And then, of course, we all love the Nigerian Nightmare because Okoye is a fan favorite.
Right. My favorite on this list is the Nigerian Nightmare. That's mean, baby.
It's cool,
You're missing a few. You're missing Jerome Bettis, the bus.
Yeah, that's a good one. That was a good one.
Who misses the bus, baby? You got to get on the bus. I'm with
what
you,
about
though.
Joe Montana?
Joe Montana. Did Joe Montana? What was his? Joe Cool or something like that?
Joe Cool, yeah.
Oh, they've really ruined that
lift
one.
it and give it to Burrow.
Yeah, they lifted it for Burrow. Joe Burr. Does Joe Burr make the list? Not even close. Not even close. I'm with you, though. Sweetness is a beautiful nickname, and Honey Badger's cool, but Primetime is pretty awesome nickname. Primetime, like if you're called Primetime, that's awesome. Is there anybody on this current Chiefs roster that should be on here?
I was going to say, as long as we're not picking Legatron, no one cares. The rest of them, we can pick it.
Who's Legatron?
I don't even know who that is.
Is that Sebastian Janikowski?
It's the white Megatron. I don't know who it is.
I really don't know.
But either way, personally, if I had to add a current Chief to this list, who would I take? Showtime Mahomes should be on this list. Stone Cold
crazy.
Jones should be on this list. Nobody else I can really think of.
Well, you got Big Yeti, or you got Zeus, whichever one you want to go with. You got Jet, and you got Lil Poppy. You got Joka.
Yeah.
Kadarius Toney. Does Sky Moore have a nickname?
No.
We called him the Skylight. I like that one. I said that by accident one day. Sky Moore highlights, and I called him Skylight.
Showtime Mahomes should have made that list, though. Just off pure principle.
He should have. We need somebody, like Creed Humphrey needs a nickname. I don't know what you could call him. Does he have one? Surely not. What are you going to get out of Creed Humphrey? Big Hump?
I have no clue, man.
I'm just going to say
looks like a fat Morgan Wallen. That's what Creed Humphrey looks like.
Don't do him like that. We'll call him Morgan Ballin. Creed, I don't know. Okay, man. Well, I'm going to show you this, too, before we wrap this up. Speaking of alternate Madden covers, I went back and found this one today. The 4 touchdown in 1 game edition. And it's got Al Bundy and Travis Kelce swapping jerseys on the cover.
Yeah, for those of you listening on the podcast, it's got Al Bundy, Travis Kelce with a jersey swap there. I do like this one. That was hilarious when that happened. And the fact that, Travis Kelce managed to do that with like 45 yards receiving or something stupid makes it even better.
Insane. This dude did nothing but catch touchdown passes. That was it.
Absolutely. But I'm digging this cover. There's been so many good covers, man. It's kind of sad that they don't do things like this instead of just putting a player that's pretty undeserving on the cover. But it is what it is. And here's the clown himself.
That was a good cover.
You just had to throw that up, didn't you?
I had to. You got to put Jamar Chase on the cover in his little silly,
his mustache disguise.
The last thing I'll say today before we wrap this up is yesterday was Father's Day. So hope you guys had a good Father's Day. Steve, here's a pic with me, you, and Pops at the Chiefs game. Do you remember how cold it was that day, man?
This, I believe, was the playoff game against the Colts.
It was.
I can't remember the year off the top of my head. But yeah, I think right before this is when I nailed news anchor in the back with a snowball from like 50 yards away. That was a good one. But yeah, that was a fun time. But happy Father's Day, Pops. You're the man. We were blessed with the best. So it is what it is.
We were. This year we'll be back. We're going to go to another Chiefs game probably, and we're going to do something crazy. But let's hope to God it's not that cold again because our feet froze. Pops actually paid like $40 for a pair of socks at Arrowhead Stadium because his feet got wet, and it was so cold that he had to change his socks out. So he got some Showtime Mahomes socks. Cost him like half of his mortgage. And yeah, that's the way that went. But yeah, if you guys are listening on Spotify or wherever you hear your podcast, get over to YouTube, youtube.com/allchievedup. You can check out that picture because it's hard to describe. It's just three dudes at Arrowhead Stadium freezing to death. That's the best way I could describe it. And Steve, you got anything for everybody before we wrap this bad boy up?
Now, if you're listening on podcasts, whatever platform you're listening on, make sure to give us a 5-star review and write some kind words on there. Let people know where to find some good Chiefs content. And here on YouTube, make sure to hit that bell and hit that subscribe button, and we'll be back later. See you next time.
There goes a sight from my soul.